I've been meaning to do an about me or mission statement for Reviewer Magazine's social media for a long time now. And it's something that should be easy because I started doing Reviewer Magazine in print back in the 90s when there was no internet, or when it was very new, and it wasn't anything like it is today, of course. But Reviewer Magazine is not in print, hasn't been in print for over 10 years. And the only iteration of it that I have is we've got the website and social media. We've got Substack, we've got YouTube, and we've got Patreon. One of which I don't use that much, one of which I use a lot, and the other one I'm using more of. I'm going to start using probably the Substack email address that they gave to me when I opened up the account there for contact. And anyways, let me get to the point. I want to summarize what Reviewer Magazine is all about now. And Reviewer Magazine, when it started in 1996, started 30 years ago, it was a nightlife magazine. It was entertainment, it was nightclubs, music reviews, art reviews. It was basically nightlife, bars, live music, and covering the art scene and CD reviews. We would do product reviews. And back then it wasn't called that. It was just CD reviews, music reviews. Everything was issued on CDs. There weren't any YouTube files. There wasn't Spotify. There wasn't online. It was long before Napster. And that was how we ran it, with doing reviews of music and bands, touring bands, nightclubs, bars that had live music. I'm driving up to North County right now. I was going to go down to the beach and do a walk and talk at the beach, but the sun came down too quickly. The day went by too fast, and I'm going to go to North County right now and do something. But I'm here in San Diego where Reviewer Magazine began, and it was a nationally published, or nationally distributed magazine published in Southern California. And it was put out for free in Reviewer Magazine drop spots in Los Angeles, Hollywood, Orange County, Huntington Beach, Hollywood, Venice, Burbank, all up and down Sunset Boulevard, all throughout San Diego. And we only printed 10,000 copies. That's the thing. But there was a lot of recognition. At the time, reviewing CDs or reviewing music was a big deal because bands were really hungry to get out there and get known. And getting reviewed was important to them. And nobody was doing anything other than in print. So having a magazine like Reviewer, which was in newsprint, not a glossy magazine, but newsprint paper, 30-pound rag, they called it, rag newspaper, newsprint, was great. It was not expensive to print, and I could sell ads and make a return a profit, and that kept going for a long time. At one point, right around 2008, I'd say, 2009, if you were to Google the word reviewer, Reviewer Magazine's website came up number 5, within the top 5 on Google. Then they changed the algorithm or whatever, and it got pushed back to farther back on pages. They wanted me to pay for advertising, and I never did, so somehow we got pushed to a farther down page, a back page. We got that way with the search results because bands link us. And at that time, MySpace was really big, and a lot of bands were getting traction by posting their tracks on MySpace. And they'd contact me through our MySpace and ask for a review, and I'd say, yeah, send the CD. They'd mail the CD in, then I'd hit him up for an ad. Now, I would never tell him that I'd give him a good or a bad review, but I would sell him an ad because, hey, we got to pay the bill somehow. And, people would say that I was like giving good reviews to bands just because they would advertise. But that's not true. That's not true. Sometimes I wouldn't even review a band. Rarely that would happen. I would pan if a band was bad, if the CD sucked and I just didn't like it. If they buy an ad, great. But if it was not really worth giving a good review to, I would just pan it. And if they took issue with that, tough. But I'm not a musician. And if a band was good and they played good music, depending on the genre, most genres I would dig because I like music. I've always loved music. And I can't play music. If somebody was a good musician, I'd be like, wow, what they're doing is great. I think that's awesome. I've always admired people that could get up on stage. I've always admired people that were performers and could get out there and entertain. And if they did a good job, I would find something good to say about it. That was the fun part about writing reviews. I felt like I was like, a satellite dish up on a mountaintop, or on a satellite out in outer space, reflecting signals that came to me and sending it out to the world to pay attention to and to hear. Time went on, and Reviewer magazine was in print for 20 years, from '96 up until around 2015, 2016, and then the advertising petered out. The print scene with magazines and everything just got subsumed by the market became eaten up by the internet. First Craigslist and what else? Search engines became too much competition for newspapers. Newspapers couldn't sell classified ads, and then their display ads became less valuable because people were like searching for stuff online. But once Google started selling ads, it was over basically. I mean, magazines went the way of the dinosaur, and that had gotten worse and worse and worse until finally COVID hit around 2000, and the last of the magazines, the last of the newspapers, basically, except for a few diehards, like unless you're the New York Times or something, or the LA Times, and you got bought up by big money, they all died. San Diego's magazines and newsprint magazines, the weeklies are all gone. There was the San Diego Weekly Reader. They are still around, I think. But they're not as big as they found as they used to be. We had a good music magazine called City Beat. They died during COVID, and their website went out immediately too. And I think their last message was, well, hopefully one day the economy will come back. We'll be able to get print again. City Beat, I think, originally came from Cincinnati, Ohio. I don't even know if their flagship magazine out there is still on. But now we've got the internet, and I can, instead of publishing 10,000 copies of a print magazine, I can put up one video on the internet and reach 1 million views. I mean, 1 million people. It just blows me away. And to picture a crowd of 1 million people seeing content that you produce is incredible. Just the other day, I recorded a handheld on my cell phone video of a lifeguard rescuing somebody in La Jolla, and put it up on the internet. It got over 1 million views in 5 days. After 4 days, it was 500,000. The next day was a Saturday, and it jumped to, I think it was a Saturday, it was a Friday, but it jumped to 1 million. It doubled in 1 day. Now it's like coming up on, it's been 2 weeks ago, and it's like 1,000,008, and it's going to be 2 million pretty soon. It's insane. I mean, the people you can meet, the people you can reach, that will find your content, will find what you do online, is just incredible, and it's worldwide. I mean, I love San Diego. San Diego's great. San Diego's the best town to live in, that I think, that I've found. I've been here my whole life, and I'm spoiled.